Hey, howdy, everybody. It's your boy Choppadong. Up top, you've got Razzle. Down below, it's Tuesday MLB Live Lock Show here on the DFS Army YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. As always, MLB Live, coupon code scrolling across the bottom. Anybody wanting to jump in and gain access to our coaches through our Discord and some of the premium tools that we do feature on the show, but mostly feature and give you access to once you are a VIP. I don't even have I'm in a beer mood today. I don't even have a beer in front of me. I don't even have a little kid that I can send to go get me a beer today. But so I guess we're just going to rock and roll on this thing. Razzle, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I cashed a booster last night. Not that worried about the way things are going and that. I should probably start posting this. In fact, the people that are piling in, I'll give them the numbers really, really quick. If you have, this is one of those things. Let's just say that those boosters are 40x and they pay the top 10% or 2%. They pay the top 2% flat pay rate, kind of like a 50-50, but much tighter. Therefore, the winning is more. The reason that I like those is you can create those lineups like we've talked about with small field GPPs and stuff. You can create those less than perfect lineups that win. If you have no edge, no skill edge whatsoever in that contest, you should cash in at about 2% of the time. Everybody should cash in at about 2% of the time. Minus the rake. So if you're doing 3%, 4%, 5%, you're doing a little bit better than most. I asked AI, what is a large enough sample? Because this is a question I get a ton in Discord in the beginner's room, is what's a large enough sample to track? It ain't 20 slates. It's like 500 plus. 100 slates, you can kind of start getting an idea. 300 at 500. They even went over 1,000 on AI, which is telling you law of large numbers. You don't know where you are until you've probably played this game for a couple of years. I like that idea. I think it puts people, maybe their minds at ease. But right now we're running about 4%. We've built about 120 lineups and we've hit 5 boosters. So can't complain. Things are kind of clicking along a little normal. It feels a little underperforming for what I've usually done, but maybe we're just in a little bit of a dry stretch. Speaking of dry stretches, I think you were in a little bit of one for GPPs yourself. Am I right?
Unfortunately, yes. It's been a rough few weeks.
It only takes one, though, man. Let's do it today.
It's true. It's all we're looking for is one.
Looks like we've got Cujo, Tattoo Freak, David, Andres is back. Love it. Love seeing the repeat guys coming in here. Tell your friends, man. Get them to jump in here. We're friendly guys. We talk back in the comments and whatnot. Let's dive into the daily rundown. I'm going to disappear off screen for a sec. Come right back. Kind of like a Muppet show, Sesame Street, if you will. We've got 11 games on slate today. Hey, 33 viewers. Hit the like. Hit the subscribe. I'm waiting for my boy Dixon to start telling people that. We've got 11 games. Coors, yes, again on the slate. We all know Philly's in town. The starting pitchers, the top 3 chalk pitchers were Dylan Cease, Tariq Skubal, and Jesus Luzardo according to our ownership projections at DFS Army. The weather concerns today, Seattle and Chicago. In Chicago, 70% in-game delay, 50% postponed risk. Cleveland in Minnesota. Shocker. That one was postponed last night. I don't think they even made that one up. It was suspended. I didn't see doubleheader news. Maybe you know. 80% in-game, 70% postponed again. The thing is, with those two sites, Chicago's 53 degrees and Minnesota's 45. That is pretty chilly stuff.
Minnesota's rained out again today.
So they did get pulled off the slate?
Yeah.
I thought I saw that early this morning, but when I checked my score app later, it had it back on the slate. So I don't know what the hell was going on there. So Cleveland, Minnesota's done. So does that take us down to 10 games, or does that go from 12 to 11?
Should take us to 10 games, I believe.
That's what I thought. But when I counted in the weather station, it looked like there were still 11 there. So should have gone with my gut there instead of hedged. But you know what? Everybody could use a good Minnesota forecast, so we gave one anyway. In Tampa Bay, warm hitting environment, of course, 87 degrees again. The former Oakland Athletics, I should say, 86 degrees in that ballpark with the LA Angels or Anaheim visiting. And then St. Louis, it is a beautiful day here in St. Louis. Detroit is in town, 77 degrees. And I believe the wind is blowing out to at least center or right field in all 3 of those locations. Our top 3 owned stacks. I'm going to save leverage for later, but the top 3 owned stacks, top 5 owned stacks that I wrote down: Philadelphia Phillies, no shock there; Seattle Mariners, Tampa Bay Rays, Houston Astros, former Oakland Athletics. And then I've got some BVP for you. Do you have some dong calls for me later?
I can locate some. I have some names in my head.
Let me see if I can steal them with some of the BVP and see if we don't lock horns here again. DJ LeMahieu is a weird one, but I like to go to the BVP page and sort by home runs. That's a different third-party site. I'm not giving the name. I'm not promoting Pepsi here. DJ LeMahieu versus Patrick Corbin, 22 for 58 in his career. Do the math for his batting average, 1,200 OPS, 6 bombs of 22 hits for DJ LeMahieu. Somebody sees the barrel pretty well in that matchup. I've also got Wilmer Flores against Lorenzen at 7 for 14. Smaller sample size. Tattoo got it. 3 home runs, 1,700 OPS. And then here's the funky one. There were a whole litany of 1 and 2 bomb off of people's stuff. I saw this one kind of funny. Stowers. What's his name? Kyle Stowers. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, whatever. Versus Jameson Taillon. 2 for 2, 2 bombs. When you're 2 for 2, and that's a super small sample size, I wouldn't rely on that for shit. But 2 for 2 with 2 bombs, do you realize it's a 5,000 OPS?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened this year.
It probably did.
I'm almost positive that happened earlier this year.
Probably did, but I saw that and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen perfect BVP before, even on a small sample, because I've never actually seen on the chart where somebody's like 1 for 1 with a bomb off of somebody. But 2 for 2 with 2 bombs is pretty freaking interesting. Again, nothing I'm relying on because I'm not a big BVP believer as it is. I like the thought of like a DJ LeMahieu, 22 for 58. Somebody sees the ball pretty well there. When you're down into 20 at-bats or below, I don't give it a whole ton of credence unless you've just like gone 6 for 7 with 4 bombs off of somebody. Then maybe something. How do you feel about BVP? We'll just throw that out to everybody, and then we'll dive into the pitching.
I feel really strongly about it.
We're opposite again.
Former baseball player, I can't stress enough how important it is for confidence or lack of confidence. I've been on both sides as a pitcher and a hitter. Like, I've seen pitchers talk about they knowing which guys own them. I've seen Vernon Wells talk about how important it is to be able to draw on past history and to succeed when you are confident. Like, it is a legit thing. The reason a lot of people, I'm not saying you because you don't fall into the spreadsheet data analytics nerds. The reason they say it doesn't matter is because they have no way to quantify it in a spreadsheet, right? To weight it and to use predictive with it. So they automatically default to it's not a large enough sample size.
Let me ask you this.
If that's the case, then like we're just never getting enough sample size from players in a 5-year MLB career either for splits. Like, so yeah, I'm pretty heated about it just because like I've experienced it. I know exactly what goes through the mind in all scenarios. As a hitter, when you own somebody, when you don't, and then as a pitcher, when somebody owns you, and when you own somebody, I know what goes through their minds.
I agree.
So,
I will tell people that I do believe in release point, arm angle, seeing pitchers, some pitchers better than others, all that stuff. But where I go, and this is what I want to ask you next then, where I go is I do believe numbers regress towards the mean and numbers do normalize over time. So what sample is significant or insignificant for you? Because I gave 3 pretty good ones here to talk about this today, actually, with 58 at-bats in DJ LeMahieu, 14 at-bats in Wilmer Flores, and just 2 with Stowers. Is that something that you think is actionable at 2 for 2 with 2 bombs, or do you need a little bigger sample? If so, how big?
I mean, I think it's actionable. I just want like 2 games.
Would you bet his prop?
If the value is there, I don't know. I don't know. I looked at it earlier because I do a home run I have a home run betting thing with 2 friends each day where we snake draft. And over the week, whoever wins is owed X amount of dollars per home run they win by. So like Stowers was on my list. It's tough. Like Stowers prior to this year, horrible history in the major league level. A lot of strikeouts, not much. Figured something out a little bit, but I might give a little less weight to his because it might have came during a stretch where he was on fire last week. So like that's the tough part, is to figure out if that one off game happened when they were during a hot stretch. Which, by the way, the analytics and spreadsheet guys refuse to believe that hot streaks and cold streaks exist. Which is the absolute dumbest thing ever. But like, if you can show me a 2-game sample, right? That'll give me enough weight, because they might not see a starting pitcher for a year and a half or 2 years between performances. And if you show me that, like, the guy is 3 for 9 in 2 games, or 3 for 7 or whatever, that like they see him over two times, and then obviously there's more that goes into it, right? Like, guys can change their launch angle over their career. So like Max Muncy, even though he strikes out a lot, but his numbers over the last handful of years would be much stronger against some pitching than they were the first few years when he was with Oakland, because he completely redid his approach at the plate, all that stuff. On the other side, pitchers, like, they add new pitches, etc. So if we had more time in the day, like, I would dig into the BVP and look at pitch profiles to see which might be real and which might just be some noise. But again, like, to me, the biggest thing in baseball is confidence. And when a guy is not fully confident on either end of it, that's when mistakes happen, or they're afraid to make a mistake, which is what led to Bonds hitting so many home runs that year, right? Like, pitchers were just so afraid to be the next home run that they made mistakes.
Or just walk his ass.
Yeah.
Out of fear.
Right.
Well, you play poker. I play poker. For those that don't know, also trying to build a poker community. So hit me up privately for information if that interests you. But I see so many parallels between poker and DFS that when you're talking about BVP and, a guy doesn't see somebody for a year and a half, and maybe he revamped his swing and maybe he whatever. This is the same thing that I hear in the poker world all the time, which is, okay, so they say if you play live poker in casinos, to really track any kind of a sample size or a steady hourly calculation or a win rate or profitability of yourself as a poker player, you need 1,000 hours accumulated live. That's the sample to overcome some of the worst case variance and make sure that your win rate is fairly accurate. But everybody will also tell you, my God, dude, at even 10 hours a week, 1,000 hours takes a long time to accumulate. 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. You can't tell me that 3 years from now, if you've read and studied and practiced and whatever, you can't tell me your poker game isn't different. It's dramatically different. And you can't tell me the same maybe about a baseball player or somebody too who's learned more, accumulated more knowledge, accumulated more video, accumulated more whatnot, that they haven't made adjustments, good or bad, but they've made adjustments to each other. They're not necessarily the same player. So that obviously plays in, is what I'm trying to say, to everything, whether it is, baseball or poker or whatever. Let's dive in and do some of the pitching and hitting stacks and whatnot. And really the announcement that I was telling people in the VIP rooms, I want to throw this back to the VIPs a little bit. I want you guys asking questions. We're going to try and get to as many as we can, but we're also going to try and give you guys time to build your lineups a little bit later too. I think Razzle and I are going to try and cut this thing a little bit shorter. Instead of going 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to try and cut it more down to 30 to 45 minutes. So all the rambling that I just did aside, let's dive in and talk starting pitching. I covered the chalk pitchers in Dylan Cease and Skubal and Luzardo. Which one of those do you like best? And throw me a couple GPP pivots.
I think we have to like Skubal the best, but I don't feel like it's one of the worst spots from St. Louis's contact numbers, maybe. Now, I think overall that St. Louis lineup has struggled more against left-handed pitching, so I think that's all right. The weather's just a little warmer in St. Louis with that wind blowing out. Not that I'm too worried about Skubal just getting lit up by home runs, but I mean, he's just the best real-life pitcher on this slate, and it's honestly not overly close. I mean, Yamamoto, but he just got lit up by these D-backs last week or a week and a half ago, whatever it was. Luzardo, I mean, yeah, we just take pitching against Colorado. I do like a couple of the right-handed bats for Colorado. So it's not a pushover matchup, but I'm surprised that Luzardo's not the highest owned, to be honest. We had an update go in, and the highest owned pitcher on the slate shocks me, and it annoys me because he was going to be my highest owned pitcher. So the fact that his ownership projection jumped so much really, really bothers me.
What else you got for me in terms of pitchers? You got anything super floating around out there?
I mean, I don't understand why Dylan Cease is so popular. I get he has upside, but he's against a team that just doesn't strike out enough. He's against a team that walks enough, gets on base, a lot of base runners. I expect him to rack up some pitch count, so it's kind of weird. Now, his ownership did drop during the last update, about 8 or 9%.
Would you fade him?
I don't know if I'm going to fade him on the slate. I've been trying to decide what I want to do.
Would you stack against him?
That's
always my thing. That's always my thing. Is just because a pitcher maybe not the best pitcher on the slate doesn't mean we should like 5-man stack against him either, because he doesn't maybe blow up or implode a ton. But
right.
This is volatile enough that Toronto could touch him up.
Toronto's just one of those teams that I don't really love their full stack. They just haven't been performing. Mm-hmm. But it feels like one of those games where neither side's destroy the ball, but neither pitcher is in a winning build. Now, Bassett is in my build right now too, but flip side, San Diego doesn't strike out very much. Right. The majority of that San Diego lineup is struggling right now, and Bassett has been really strong at home. So I think maybe I like Bassett more than Cease in this game. But I think the one guy that I want to be overweight on is Lorenzen in San Francisco. Obviously, you know about Wilmer Flores' BBP, but I just will always take pitching in that ballpark. And if San Francisco's lineup has 6 lefties in it, that's a good thing for Lorenzen because he's a reverse splits guy. I mean, it's going to have Flores. Maybe it might only have 5 lefties in it because it'll probably have Ramos, Flores, Adames, and Chapman. But I think Lorenzen has the shot to be an SB2 on DraftKings. And
I should have probably not spoken too highly of Toronto. I maybe should have toned it down a little bit, said that they've got a couple of bats that could do some damage. So it probably plays more towards your mini stack idea, if anything, rather than a full 5 on stack, because I would agree that the lineup has really been kind of pukey, as has San Diego. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see that game go 2-0 or 6-5. I don't know. D Pope asks this question: What's the strategy for playing large field GPP with a weird max like 5 entries or 10? I'll tell you this: if it's only allowing, like if it's a 3 max tournament, those can be huge. If it's a 20 max, that's fine. If it's a 150 max, that's fine too. But if you see one that's like a 7 max or a 42 max or something weird, a number like that usually indicates 3% of the contest pool, the overall entries. They cap it at about 3%. And there's a difference I've shared between numerical and mathematical advantage with the VIPs that I won't bore everybody with today, but the larger field type stuff over 500,000 people or more, you need to get a little funky. You need to be thinking about perfection. You need to be thinking about going for the very, very top and not the min cash. You need to be fully stacking most of the time, if not all of the time, when you're attacking those. You need that correlation. You need that upside. I mean, we've mentioned before, 9 individual hitters. If you nail them all, we'll always outperform stacks. But stacks, it's easier to target an offense and get all those extra at-bats of that lineup cycling over and over and over with more and more and more opportunity. Plus, you nail that team offense, really, really well. You get on the wrong side of the bullpen, you end up in a situation like St. Louis was last night, wrapping up the game with position players pitching, which should be positive expected value over the long run, although it wasn't necessarily last night in that game. Do you have anything to add to that or even contradict, Razzle, in terms of that question?
No, I mean, I like those scenarios as long as the bankroll allows to max those. I've had a lot of success in those that have weird maxes that are far below 150. So they've had some different like $5 and $8 large fields that max at between 60 and 88. I've had a ton of success maxing those out. So anytime that I can match the big bankroll guys, the stars, the sharks within higher dollar ish, I'm gonna take it. They can't out bankroll me, in a spot. Where if it's a $333 and it happens to be 150 max, where it's like a milli or something weird, like I'm not playing 150 in that to match them. But if it's a $111 that has a 5 or 10 max to it, I have a better chance to max it and match them and compete with them stronger. So, everybody wants to be able to 150 max because they feel like they can win. If it was up to me, and I had the access to some of those, I would feel more comfortable, 10 maxing a GPP. I'd feel like I'd compete pretty well. So
I would also say, I thought that you might hit this one too, that the fewer lineups the max allows, if it's 40 or if it's 8 or whatever, the fewer it is off of 150, the more and more you kind of got to take some stands and start trimming off some teams. Like you can't take 1% and 2% exposure on some of these teams too terribly much. I mean, there comes a point where there just aren't enough lineups for you to, spread things around. When I do 7 max boosters, I'm focused on 3 teams, maybe 4. It's about all I can do, a lineup or 2 of each to kind of get some spread, but not, I don't want to be all in on somebody, but at the same time, I can't take pieces of everybody. 10 max, you can do a little more. 20 max, you can do a little more. 40 max, you can do a little bit more. I don't know at what number you feel like you can get a little bit of exposure to everybody, but you're certainly not going to get the exposure that you can get across a full 150, or like you're doing in some cases, 300, 500, 600. By the way, hot take or hot tip for everybody today. I heard from the development team that they are going to start working. I have no time frame for this to happen, but they have shifted some of their focus and priority on the domination station to expand beyond 300 lineups per build. So we might get to a point where we can do 400, 500, 600 lineups in one fell shot. And if that's the case, that helps people like Razzle. So that could be a good thing. It might help, dime and quarter monkeys like myself too. Who knows? Would that help you if you could do that? Or do you like doing it?
Most of the time it would help me.
Okay.
It really depends on my schedule for me being able to do batches.
Hell, let me know in the comments if it would help you guys.
Can't.
So, but yeah, because I know you do batches, and that's kind of why I asked if it helps you out or not. Yeah, if you guys are in the comments, there's 90 of you in here watching right now. Please chime in. Let me know. Does building more than 300 help you? Is that something that I should go back to, Football Geek or some of the people on the developmental side and say, hey, got some feedback from members, from people watching the YouTube show that this really helps. And by the way, We've got a couple of you guys that have become VIPs off of this show, so that is awesome. Good stuff. Keep showing us that this show works, and we'll keep putting it out for everybody. Let's.
I mean, like I would, when we have that ability, like I would probably utilize it more than just running batches all the time. Part of the reason why I ran batches is because I couldn't do more than 300 at a time. So like if I could do 600 at a time, I'd have access to be able to control my percentages across the board.
Right.
Where if I did doing it in batches, I can't really. I have to guess. I have to kind of hope that I got exposed to you guys enough. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to both. I like doing both. And it's kind of a gut feel, basically like, I mean, right now I've been struggling doing it as a whole, so I should switch to batches, but I just don't have the time today to do batches.
I agree.
Unfortunately. So I have to make adjustments that way. So just having the option is the key thing, right? Because we just never know what kind of contests are going to come up, and then all of a sudden DraftKings drops those penny or nickel ones where they just keep dropping them over and over again. The last couple of years they've done those randomly, where like you could end up with like 3,000 lineups because they just keep dropping all these 150 max penny contests or whatever. And it allows you to work on your MME.
Oh, 100%. Let's put the thing back on the rails. Let's do some hitting. Get your dong calls and your tier stacks ready. There was one more thing I wanted to do that was a good transition between the two, but since it shot right out of my ADHD brain, I'm not going to worry about it. There was a question really quickly. Do you think Lorenzen can rack up some strikeouts? I'll just ask you this: should he go over or under his prop? And while you're doing that,
his prop was 4.5 juice to the under. Here's the issue. San Francisco is bottom 10 in strikeouts, so they do strike out a fair amount. The problem is they have the 6th fewest strikeouts at home on the season. And I believe we touched on that either yesterday or last week. This ballpark plays so big, pitchers are pitching different. I think it was yesterday when I talked about Robbie Ray. This ballpark is so big that pitchers pitch a little differently, pitch more to contact, let the ballpark play for them for outs. So I do worry about like true K upside. It opened at 4.5 juice to the under. I don't know if it's moved to 3.5 or anything. Like if it moved to 3.5, then I would feel really good about taking over. 4.5. If it's still plus money, I think I might sprinkle, but like I'm not expecting a 6-7K performance out of Lorenzen.
Okay, that works. Got another question. Let's go through the tier stacks, and we'll catch back up on the questions here a little bit. I already mentioned that the chalk stacks were Philly, Seattle, Tampa, Houston, and the Athletics. I'm going to kick over, guys, the Carnage report before I take it off the screen. I don't want to dive too deeply into the numbers there, but the purple's really, really good. The dark red is really, really bad for a pitcher, which means flip-flop it. And then, you've got bad for bats, and then good for hitters. That helps you identify certain things. But the main tool that I like to use in a situation like this is the leverage stack. So I'm going to crank the leverage rank, flip it up, and we'll see what the numbers are, because we said ownership. I gave them in order, but the leverage flips a little bit. LA, Seattle, New York Yankees, Philly, and former Oakland Athletics. San Diego coming in at 6th. Razzle, what are your tier 1, 2, 3 stacks? Well, 3 worth mentioning, but what are tiers 1 and 2?
I'm a little annoyed now looking because I just moved the Athletics to tier 1, moving and dropping the Yankees down because I thought the Yankees would be more popular. And it looks like my top 2 stacks are the 2 highest on the leverage report in Philly and the Athletics. I really thought the Athletics would go a little overlooked when you have the Dodgers and Yankees. Apparently I was wrong. Seattle being 3rd, Seattle, New York, Detroit, and the Dodgers ended up in tier 2 for me. Detroit, good weather to hit in, and I don't think Fetty is very good. So seeing Detroit,
I live here and I don't.
Detroit's pretty far down the list on total ownership, so like that's a spot that maybe I should have moved them to tier 1. I'm not going to really change it now, but I do really like Detroit now. Seattle, the weather is not great in Chicago. That's a little worrisome, but I really like right-handed bats for Seattle. I think you can get weird and not have Cal Raleigh in your stack to be different. Bryce Wilson, I mean, he gets hit by everybody, but especially right-handed bats. I mean, Yankees, like the Yankees are just the Yankees. Maybe the field just is sick of picking on Patrick Corbin and not having it work out. So maybe that's why the Yankees aren't as high owned. So those are my tier 1 and tier 2.
If people are gonna keep letting the Yankees and the Cubs, and I know they need to land on the main slate once in a while, but the Dodgers and whatever else slip, and golly, if you want to keep going away from the Dodgers on night slates and small slates and stuff like that, I'll keep taking them, because that's just over the course of the year. That's just going to work for me more times than it doesn't, unless it's just ridiculously stupid chalky, and then I might gamble against it. But usually as a default move, I'm just going to take those teams that are scoring 5-6 runs a game. It's just the way I do it. Killer Cam asks, who are your top 2 pitchers particularly you like most for DK GPPs? I'm going to say hopefully he watched your pitching video, because I bet you covered it.
I don't know if I stated my favorite on the video, since it is a first look. I mean, it's tough because of the pricing, but I mean, I'll give away my favorite is Will Warren, but he's the one that I'm annoyed his ownership skyrocketed, which is really frustrating. Considering his projection isn't very strong, so it's kind of weird to see. And then it's like it's really trying to figure out if you can make Scooble or Luzardo work. Logan Henderson's just super expensive. He's been impressive in his first 2 starts, so it's just trying to make Will Warren work with one of the high-price pitchers along with your stacks.
Well, depends on who you're stacking.
If money didn't matter, it'd be Scooble, but or if I didn't need a value shortstop like Tovar, it'd be Luzardo and Will Warren.
Okay, hopefully that helps Cam out. Secondly, D Pope asks again, how would you all approach night slates? Do you make any shifts? Some touts say stacks, some say get weird. It seems like you always have to have the one guy that hits 2 dongs. That part's true. If somebody does hit 2 dongs and you're in a larger field GPP, you better have him or you ain't winning nothing. Unless it's somebody really stupid, like some little 9-hole hitter or something like that. Sometimes can dodge some stacks, but generally you're going to need them because they just don't have a lot of options on that slate. How do you attack those, or do you even play them that much?
I mean, I'm still playing them based on what my full research is, like playing the team that I like the most. If it's a 2 to 4 game slate, I may not 5-man stack, but I do stack. Like I'm not trying to pick a bunch of one-offs. So I don't remember what our research states about 3 to 4 gamers. I don't have that graph memorized off the top of my head, but I do know that it's not necessarily a 5-2.
Lucky for you, I do.
So
because I'm smart like that. You said I wasn't a spreadsheet guy. Well, I got news for you, buddy. I'm kidding.
It might be a 4-2 or a 3-2. I know one of those numbers is a 4-2.
It does shift.
I do know that for sure.
5-2 dominates everything, literally everything until you get the 4 games. When you get the 4 and 3, it does drop. The 4 by whatevers become more prominent. There is one in which the 5-2, and I know, I don't have it memorized. I was kidding, but there is one in which the 5x2 does not dominate. And even the 3-bys kind of start pulling in there a little bit. But on the bigger slates, the 4x3, 4x4, 5x2, 5x3, basically, the more teams on a slate, and this is what you need to know for the night slate, the more teams on a slate, the more likelihood that two of them are going to go off. And when two of them go off, you want them both. And you want as many bats out of them as you can get, usually. That's why 5x whatever stacks and whatever generally start where 4x4s, 5x3s start to work on those great big slates if you nail those offenses. If you don't nail the offenses, it doesn't really matter what the hell you do. But when you've only got 3 games or 4 games, there's a little less likelihood that the scoring can be a little flatter, can be a little bit more spread out, a little bit more one-offy. So that's where those 5x2s tend to. Now, Razzle will tell you, and I would absolutely second it. I would say, like in your chalky teams in those 3 and 4 man slate, 4 team slates, those or 4 game slates, whatever, when the ownership really, really matters. You get the Dodgers on a slate like that, you might drop from a 5 stack to a 4 stack because we know it's a little bit more ideal. And sometimes the chalk gets a little bit overstacked or a little bit over-owned or a little bit overused. But on the bigger slates, everybody's a little afraid to kind of really stack hard, or at least they used to be a couple of years ago when we were doing those graphs. And you gain leverage by stacking more and by stacking harder. And Razzle will always tell you, don't go anywhere other than a 5x2. If that's just your default, just do it. And you still believe that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe in some of the numbers that we've located. I do believe in somewhat of a gut call, but like that comes from understanding some matchups more. There are routes to where you're like, I look at like the slate as a whole and think like it may be pitching matchup based, where I just don't think an offense can support a 5-man or any offense on that 3 or 4 gamer. So like then I might just be like, all right, we have to go 3-3. Then kind of sprinkle mini stacks because I just don't see a pitcher getting lit up enough. And that just comes from playing, DFS over and over again and understanding matchups, and then just the luck of the schedule too, right? Like there are going to be times where our late night slate is 3 games and it has like the 4 best pitching options on the entire day are all on that slate. So I move things around. I got lucky and won. I shouldn't even say that because now it'll give the trolls some ammo. I didn't get lucky. It worked out that when I won the 50K, it was a larger day slate, but I didn't go 5-2. I went 4-2-1-1. The reason being is I did not believe that the 5-man squad had enough to support 5 guys in the lineup. There were 4 that I really loved, and I didn't feel right just adding a 5th piece just to have 5. And it's because I really loved the 2 one-offs that I had in that lineup who hit home runs. So like things just came together, and I was willing to kind of go against what I normally do based on what I felt about that particular spot. And it worked out. So it was my research that led me to that lineup. It was whatever act of you want to call it is what led me to winning. But my research put me in that spot because I believe that the Reds could not support a 5-man stack.
And that's when you make that pivot, that smart pivot. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
absolutely. Do you have any sneaky dawn calls for us? We'll put a bow on this and we'll get back to building lineups. It's been a good conversation today, I think. I think this has been a great conversation.
Really like Jesus Sanchez. Oh, wait, that's not on the right slate. I'm looking at my wrong notes. But if you're playing the early slate, Jesus Sanchez for the Marlins against Tyon.
Ooh, okay.
I like...
folks, there's the cat again. Another appearance.
I like the right-handed bats in Sacramento quite a bit tonight. So picking any of them, Ohapi, Neto, Taylor Ward, Soler, Rooker, Langeliers, Luis Urias, maybe a dart throw. I just really like the right-handed bats in that ballpark with how warm it is as well. So I'm very interested there. trying to think of the other off the wall ones. I don't know if I have many off the wall ones. Back to Isaac Paredes, who's been hitting home runs the last week or so, week to 10 days.
So if you don't have that many
Wilmer
off the
Flores
wall
was
ones,
definitely on my list.
okay, that's a good one. If I don't hear any off the wall ones, are you going to go back and just default off to Schwarber in Coors and Judge and Otani? Just lock up a win.
I didn't. I mean, I didn't share I guess I did name the guy that I took in our staff contest that's on the site. It is in the Sacramento game, the A's Angels.
Well, there you go. There you go.
It is one of the right-handed bats there.
And more importantly, they can run to the cheat sheets. The VIPs can run to the cheat sheets and just get them all there. Pope again is asking about tonight. So drop to a 4, no 4 or 5 stack for Arizona, 5-man LA, 5-man Athletics, 5-man KC. Would those be eligible stack options? Yes and no. I would say, for tonight in particular, you just got to see how your lineups come together, building around things. If you hand build, you've got a little bit more control, one lineup at a time. If you don't like a 5-man LA stack, you feel like you can get a little bit more better hitting matchups, or if you focus on the top of the order or whatever, it can build a more expensive hitting lineup in your main stack or whatever by going to 4 and then using 3 on the other side, or 2 and a couple of one-offs or whatever. By all means, that's all personal preference. There's just no blanket answer other than the fact that 5x2 wins the most on any given slate. It does a little bit worse on the short slates. It does a whole lot better on the bigger slates, really anything over 4 games. You might consider it just based on limited options, but some nights you've got options. You might have a great value stack somewhere that allows you to get a full 5-man whatever stack, in which case don't just go, well, it's only a 3-man slate and the Army guys said should only do 4. No, go 5 on a day like that. They win plenty of short slates too. Anything to add before we ship it off into the night?
No, I mean, when it comes to those hand building, those specialty slates, like I really play around with a bunch of combinations, just to see before I submit anything. Like I'm really going through and trying to figure out what I feel the best about. And it's going to take you a little bit, but it might be as simple as I need to play this 2-man combination because it's my favorite 2-man, or I need to play these 2 bats in different games, and then I see what I can fit around it as well. Like you're just going to base it on how you feel when you look at what you've built alone. You might feel like I have to play these 2 pitchers. Okay, so then now you dictate your build around those 2 pitchers on that particular slate. So it's really tough to give a blanket answer to it because those slates are so specialized that I think it changes so much on a night-to-night basis.
And to be fair,
we get into this funk where we think we have to jam this 5-man stack in no matter what we do. And I just don't think that that's right. Obviously, most of what I do is 5-mans, but there are just times where it just doesn't make sense to where maybe you end up 3-3 and then 2 one-offs. Maybe you do 3-2 with 3 one-offs. Because there will be slates like that where 3 one-offs make sense because they're in great home run situations, but the rest of their lineup might not be very strong. So like you just want to get those home runs, and getting home runs on those small slates, super important.
For sure. I would add that I haven't looked at tonight's late slate yet at all. So I don't know how things are combining together. I'll figure that out probably well after the main slate locks. So I don't have a good answer for Pope there. But you're welcome for making you better. And everybody else, hopefully you guys feel the same way. I'm going to throw it to Razzle for a final thought once again and shut my mouth so that we can ship this thing to the night. And if Razzle doesn't say something in 5 seconds, I'm going to hit the end stream and we're going to kick it off into DFS land for tonight. Hope everybody has their helmets on, wins a lot of money. Razzle, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I don't get much. Detroit in St. Louis is looking better and better for me. That's what I'll get.
Oh, sexy. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you later, everybody. Have a good day.